And it's not something that I yearn to be in. I did not want to be in those dirty homes or um, around those people. I just needed a sense of belonging, I think. And I think that's what I was there for. I'm not even sure. And the drugs just killed the pain.
Welcome to the Carla Rand Show, a weekly podcast designed to dig into the lives of everyday people. People who are making a positive impact, people who have risen above and overcome obstacles. Insights and stories from ordinary individuals who inspire us all towards the truly extraordinary. Here's your host.
Well, this was an interview that I have been wanting to do for a while. I was able to interview my nutrition coach, Patti Swoboda. So she works for Power Fitness now. She's our nutrition coach, and she has such a powerful story. And going from as a teen, going through drugs and alcohol and all of the other things that she had to go through, and being able to come out on the other side and all like the healing and the journey and how she's had to build habits and grow through that. It's been so powerful. And I think what the takeaway here is for you when you're looking at nutrition, when you're looking at fitness, yes, we do talk about nutrition a little bit too, but from her story, I think to just see how it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter if you're fit, you're not fit, if you're struggling, if your mental health is suffering, whatever you're going through, maybe you have addictions, maybe you have vices in your life, you can start today. There's always hope for you. You can always start fresh. You don't have to keep that pattern that you've had when you were younger. And so that's the story that Patti shares with us, and it's very powerful. Let's get into it. Okay, I've got Patti Swoboda on with me today, and I am really excited to have Patti on. I've actually been sort of planning to have her on for a really long time, but I kind of wanted to wait till the time was right, and I think the time is right now. So Patti is actually one of our Power Fitness nutrition coaches, and she's been excellent to work with. She's been a great friend. We've actually gone on some hikes together, and I met her through Power Fitness. She came, you moved to Edson, Patti, and you were looking for a place to work out, and we met each other, and it's been great. It's been such a delight to get to know you. Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like for you to come, move to Edson, get involved in Power Fitness, and then suddenly decide to be a nutrition coach?
Yeah, sure. I decided just randomly one day that it was time to merge my family as a complete whole and take my son from BC, move to Edson, where my husband had been working for the last 10 years, and just start fresh as a family. I was the do it all by yourself mom for many, many years, and just thought, you know what, my son is getting to that age where needing that male role model was very important. So we moved to Edson, and I don't know if I really thought it out, but I was leaving behind a huge family, not only a biological family, but a gym family and a family of friends and just a big support system. So I moved here on a whim, and the rest just kind of kept going. In February of, I'm just trying to think, I guess it was 2020. Okay. It seems like a lot longer ago, but February of 2020, I just thought, okay, something has to give. I need to meet some people. I need to get back into my fitness, which is very, very important to me, and move forward. So I joined Power Fitness, and just to kind of get out there. And I knew it was like group training, so that was important to me, and met an amazing amount of wonderful women that were all there to support. And it's exactly what I was looking for in not only fitness, but as a group of a family, a community, and just a gathering of people that would be there to support you on your journey, I guess.
So not only you were getting the workouts, because you had come from a background, right, of being quite fit and quite active, right? And then you had kind of gone through maybe a bit of a slump, and then you're like, okay, I want to get back in shape. And so you looked around and you're like, okay, now I can have not just getting in shape, but actually having that community support. And that's kind of, that was important to you, right?
Yeah, very. And I did leave a very fit body behind when I moved to Edson. I left all that behind because I just didn't know where to start. I thought it was going to be a fantastic move, and It really has been in the end. But in the beginning, it was a lot of struggles. We were living in a fifth wheel, which was great that we had that opportunity. But I just didn't have the mental or the physical capacity to just go out and do it on my own again. It actually took my husband driving me from gym to gym to gym, saying, okay, what do you think of this place? What do you think of this place? And I thought, okay, if I don't get out there and find something, he's going to do this tomorrow too. So I did. Yeah. And to be back in that fit body again, because it depreciated and declined very, very quickly after leaving BC. And it was not a great place for me mentally.
Mm-hmm. So how have you been able to kind of like get fit again then? What's been kind of key to that? And I want you to talk also about how you became a nutrition coach. Why a nutrition coach? Aren't you busy enough, Patti?
Yes, I actually am busy enough. And now it's even busier, which a busy mind is great for me because that keeps me focused. And I think so getting back fit was consistency. Going to the gym, however many days a week I was able to go, which was 4, I believe, where there was, at first my mindset was maybe not in the 100% ball game. I said, no, I'm not doing 6 o'clock in the morning workouts. I've done that for years. I'm not doing 7 o'clock at night workouts. I've done that for years. I'm stay at home. I can do 9 o'clock. I make my own schedule. So I did to every 9 o'clock workout that I could possibly get to. And when I couldn't because I was leaving or there was another appointment, I made sure I did a 6 o'clock workout or a 7 o'clock workout or whatever that looked like. I was very consistent on working out, but found that there was a piece of the puzzle missing, and it was definitely my nutrition. I've always been very, very passionate about food in a lot of different ways, and we'll get into that as the story goes on. But very passionate about food and how it fuels your body. I've also been picked a few maybe diet trends that weren't so healthy, and just thought, something's missing in the piece of the puzzle. And it's not always about, you can reach out and get help, but sometimes you need to educate yourself in the way that is more than that. So we were talking and we were talking about nutrition. I thought, you know what, I think that would be a really good fit for me. Number one, I'm passionate about food, and I really want to know the whole ins and outs of how food fuels your body. But I think I could be helpful in other people's lives because I've been there. It's not just out of a textbook. There's been a lot of trials and a lot of different strategies that I've taken on. Some worked not so well. Some worked for a very short period of time. And as I became more and more involved in the program of my course that I was taking, I learned a lot more about me as an inside person too, and how nutrition is more than just food. It's, there's a really big mindset around it, and there is a lot of other factors, emotional factors, mental factors that go into why we eat and how we can control that and different things, and accountability around that, because I always thought, okay, well, I know the goods, so therefore I shouldn't have to ask for help. And knowing now that that's not true, that coaches need coaches too. And I'm really excited to share all the knowledge that I have with everybody out there, and it also is educating me further and further as I go.
And remember when you were doing it, you'd be like, Carla, I'm learning so much. Like you were just excited when you were going through the program. I mean, there were some days where it was a little grueling. You're like, I just got to get through this chapter. This is a lot of work because it's heavy stuff. Like I remember going through it too. It's not just like, oh, eat your veggies and, have some protein. Like it gets really into like the cells and what the cell membrane is made up and what kind of nutrition you need to fuel that and how it all works together and how to boost your energy and all of these kind of things. And it's like, it's heavy stuff. It's like going back to biology. And so like some of that was grueling, but you were so excited. I remember too when I was going through it, I was like, man, I'm learning so much about myself, and I'm learning so much more. And it's a real eye opener. Like I encourage anybody who's kind of interested in food or wants to fuel, like even if you don't become an actual coach like Patti and I are, even if you just study it so that you really have a good grasp. Because I know like the coach, like the clients that I work with, the clients that you've worked with too, Patti, like some of them just like they know so much about, like they've Googled this or whatever, and they have all these different facts about nutrition, but they don't actually know the big picture. They don't see how it all works together. So they want just, can you just give me a meal plan, or can you just tell me what to do? But if they actually understand it, then they're going to know what to do, and they're going to be able to always make a good decision going forward, regardless of what situation they're in. They're not going to have to guess anymore, you know?
Well, that's it. And I think I expected, I don't know what I was expecting going into it. I don't have a high education, so learning cells and that in biology wasn't an option. I never made it that far. So opening a textbook alone was quite overwhelming. And I was very, very, very thrilled with how they had it set out, because they know what they were talking about. They first engaged in you and how you were going to be able to learn. So it wasn't just about, oh, here's the science facts about food, which I was expecting. You know, I wanted to know, you know, what did a carrot do for you? What did a piece of chicken do for you? What was important about this? And actually, they really broke it down to how you're learning, how you learned, and how that can move forward, and building habits. And all of that is actually a part of the end picture when it comes to nutrition, is building the habits and taking it just baby steps at a time, and learning the important things. You don't need to know all the science on the other end. On this end, you do need to understand how protein fuels you in a different way, in a different time frame, et cetera, et cetera. On that end, you don't. You just need to trust the process and learn the habits.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting.
It's a very different way to do it. It's not just like, you know, read it, need it, meal plan. It's like an actual, like, you know, here's what you need to, because the reality is we all have defaults. We all have something that we always go back to. What is that default for you? Is that default going to McDonald's? Is that default getting pizza? Is that default, you know, making good, healthy food? Like whatever that default is, that's what you're going to go back to. So you need to switch your default so that your default remains healthy. And in order to do that, you have to make those habits easy and attainable. And what happens to most people is they're like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in 20 days. You know, they're going to eat like crazy. They're going to exercise like crazy, and they're just going to get it all done at once. And they can only survive doing that maybe for about 20 days, and then they crash and burn and they're back at square one. So I think, like you said, you got to build those habits slowly and gradually, and it's not a fun, like, woohoo, you know, like bright lights party. It's more of a marathon. Like you just got to keep plugging away at it until it becomes
how it becomes a lifestyle. It doesn't have to be, once you've built that and once you understand it, how it can be a lifestyle without being very painful. Just going through a holiday, had I been, say, trying to lose weight any other time, I would have restricted. Nope, I can't have that chocolate. No, I can't have whatever that looks like. And going through a holiday was fine. I'm allowed to have that piece of chocolate. But I also know how to handle that on the other end, and how that if I did not have that piece of chocolate, what that would look like in a week from now, shoving the whole bag in my mouth, you know, because I've restricted myself so much and, you know, resentful around that. Whereas now it's a lifestyle, and I'm allowed to, and I don't eat it often, but when I do, I very much enjoy it. So,
and it's so true. The less you have some of that stuff, the more you enjoy it when you do have it. Sometimes it's like, this is so good. And you just savor it, you know? That's awesome. Yeah, but you mentioned something. You said that you weren't very educated. You said you didn't make it to biology. So can you go back and tell us about that? I know, like, you have, and this is a big reason why I wanted to have you on, Patti. Yes, we want to talk a little bit about nutrition, but you have an incredible story, and I didn't know your story until we went on a hike together, and you started sharing some stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness, I would never have guessed that. Like, I just never would have guessed the stuff that you've gone through. So can you kind of just take us back to kind of when you were a kid and just like walk us through your journey?
Yeah, this is I'll have to say this is probably one of the very first times that I've ever shared most of this information. Um, and it may spark a little bit of emotion on my part.
Hmm.
So yeah, but we'll start from the very beginning. And I was born and raised in Kamloops, BC, to a very wonderful family, with a lot of values and a lot of morals. Um, outside looking in, we were the family with the white picket fence. My dad had a very good job and provided very well for us. We never went without. And as I grew older and older, uh, things don't always go the same for every person. And I think there was definitely a few incidences that happened when I was younger that I personally haven't dealt with 100% yet. So I won't get into those that triggered what happened later on in my teen years. Um, we became foster parents because we had this perfect little family.
Your parents became
us.
foster parents. Your parents became
Yeah,
foster
okay, we
parents.
became a foster family. So there was myself and my brother, who was a couple years younger than me, and he was one of those happy-go-lucky kids. He could, anything would come and go, water off a duck's back. Me, on the other hand, I was, quite taken by the fact that there was people moving into our home, and we had two little kids, and they were fine. And they came from a very abusive, disruptive family, and I felt really bad for them because I'd never seen anything like this. I seen they were malnutritioned right off the get-go, and so it was okay because they were little. And then they left, and that wasn't really affecting me at all. And we ended up with another foster child, and he came to us a little bit older. He was a year older than me, and he also had schizophrenia. And I didn't understand any of that, but I do know that it was a big, huge factor in a lot of the things that I pulled later on. There was a lot of anger, resentment. He ruined my life, is what I thought. And of course, the counselor said I was being very selfish because here you've got a child that needs a home, and your parents are willing to give that child a home out of the kindness of their heart, because they really did it with all of their heart involved. And now I'm being selfish because I'm taking away from that. Mm. So I think right from a young age, I felt like I wasn't being listened to. There was nobody not that my parents weren't listening, but that we tried to figure out why that bothered me so much. And it was just disruptive in my life. And I think foster care is amazing, but I think it's a big picture when there's other children involved. So yeah, that led to growing up with my friends knowing that this was my foster brother, and he was schizophrenic, and he would pull some really fun, exciting things on me during high school and stuff like that, which in turn, in a sense, acted that I'm done with school. Like, I'm not going to go if this is the way life's going to be, and I'm going to be bullied because this kid is now my brother. So again, selfish on my part with the counselors, thinking that was okay, that it was, he had a mental illness, so therefore it was okay for him to treat me that way. Mm. And from not going to school led into other things, and drugs, alcohol, and just being very rebellious, all in all.
How old were you when you kind of just got rebellious and decided to quit school?
13. Mm. Yeah, I was 13. I just started into grade 8, and just things were different, right? And there was a lot of new people, and you could catch on to what they were doing. And I spent my time in the smoke pit and the behind in the alleys. And, I guess I felt a sense of calmness and relief from the drugs, that I could be away from that situation, from what home life was. It was very tense. And then, of course, one drug leads to another, which also leads to mood changes. And I became very unruly at home. And from no fault of my parents, and I still will, to this day, I think they did absolutely everything that they can and could. While I was growing up, they definitely took the time and the money and the effort to try and find me the right people to talk to and what have you. But I ended up leaving the house because I became an issue. I now had not only, I believe they actually removed the foster child out of the home because I think they seen what was actually going on. But then I had my brother, and, I wasn't very nice. I was not nice to them. I was not nice to my family at all. I did not follow the house rules. I was beyond all of that. And I just was slipping into a very slippery slope and down a huge hill. So I was removed from my home and put into a group home, which, again, hindsight is 2020. I understand why I would be removed from the home, but once I ended up in the group home, things just spiraled downhill. It's a breeding ground for more drugs, for more opportunities for unruly children. And for 99% of the people who were there came from a background that was very not similar to mine at all. Like, they came from a lifestyle of drugs and alcohol abuse, anything and everything but a loving family home. So I lived in a group home for, I think there was an extended, like a 30-day maximum that you could go there, and then you went into a foster home. But I lived there actually extended because they couldn't really find me a foster home. And then they finally did. And I jumped around from one crazy home to another crazy home. And I say crazy because I'm used to a mom and a dad and a brother and a dinner and a breakfast and a lunch and a clean place to live and a safe home. And these were just foster homes. These were homes that were either out there trying to make money, or, there was some where I was in a basement on a mattress with a sheet wrapped around that was called my bedroom. So it's just like, this is crazy. I'm not living here. And after, in turn of moving from home to home to home, they had a hard time homing me anymore. And I ended up living on the streets. And
how old were you when you started living on the streets?
I was 14, going on 15. And I met family is what I thought. I thought, okay, these people are amazing. They're going to take me in. They're going to give me a roof over my head, although not a very clean roof or a very supportive roof, just a roof over my head. And I thought they were my friends. And I was this little kid. And I was just the baby, right? So everybody babied me. Everybody took care of me. They gave me whatever I wanted. I didn't really have to do much, but I was always fed. And I was too young to, send out into the world of selling drugs and prostitution, although that was offered to me. And I think I just grew up with such a great morals and values as a younger child to know that that's not where I wanted to be. I'm not selling my body for food or for a place to stay. So the answer is no. And that became, I think, quite tiresome to the people around, that I was not willing to go to those levels. So I did actually end up having to sell drugs for a little while on the corner of a street to other young people that were just just starting out. And, it's like coaxing them into that crazy lifestyle and getting them hooked on that. And yeah, I mean, this story could go on forever, but I ended up in Vancouver, which coming from a little small town at the time was quite an eye opener. And selling drugs there really isn't an option unless you get into it bigger. You're not just going to be that street corner person. That corner's already taken by somebody else. And I ended up down there with 3 other people and ended up being, for a very short period of time, spotting a spotter, which meant I stood there and watched and took license plate numbers and made sure that whoever I was with was safe, right? I was 15 years old. You can't keep somebody safe at 15 years old, but it was my job. On my 16th birthday, I think it just overwhelmed me so much. I was sitting in a hotel room. I watched my parents drive by on a busy Vancouver street. I watched their truck drive by and I'm like, they're here looking for me. They want me back. I didn't understand that at the time, but they actually really, really want me back. So I made a phone call, and at that time, cell phones weren't an option, so I wasn't going to phone them, but I did phone my aunt and said, is my mom and dad in Vancouver? And yes, they are. And it wasn't 12 hours later, they were back home in Kamloops, and I phoned again. And I didn't even think it was 3 or 4 hours later, my dad was at the hotel picking me up. And my 16th birthday was a drive back, a very quiet drive back, but it was like the worst day ever. It should have been a good day. It was the worst day ever. I just didn't understand where my life was going. And from there, I can't say things got better. And a lot of it's still a little fuzzy. But I ended up back in Kamloops, kind of in the same boat I left, and ended up being arrested finally for selling drugs. The saddest part is the arresting officer brought me into the police station, and standing in front of the reception office there was my best friend from being a kid, was her dad standing there, and he admitted me into the jail cells. And I think that was a wake-up call, that my best friend's dad seen me in my worst times ever. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of kept going on from there. My parents were, go ahead.
You were 16, you were in jail. How long were you in jail for?
Yeah. I was picked up by another foster family within 24 hours. It was only a city holding cell, which they couldn't hold a minor person there. There was no room for me. Next door was all the adults, right? So there was no room. So within 24 hours, I was picked up by another foster home, and she was amazing. She was kind of everything that I wanted in a foster parent and then some, but I couldn't get my shit together. Excuse me. I couldn't figure it out. Like, why can't I just stay there? This is, they love me. They want me there. They treat me with respect. I'm clean. They give me food and send me to school and all that kind of stuff. I just couldn't at that point figure it out. And I was coming up on charges of the drug trafficking charges. And I was given 2 choices. And it was only because my parents were financially able to take on the second choice. But it was either you go to a juvenile detention or you go to a drug rehab center. And that's your 2 choices. They helped me out, and they said, you know what, we'd like to send you to a drug rehab center. We think that would be helpful. And again, I think it was like a 30-day maximum stay, and I ended up being there for 90 days, the youngest of anybody that had ever been there. And I did learn a lot. And it did turn my life around, and it was kind of the foundation for, I guess, in the same of nutrition, building habits that were able to keep me away from that lifestyle. And it's not something that I yearned to be in. I did not want to be in those dirty homes or around those people. I just needed a sense of belonging, I think. And I think that's what I was there for. I'm not even sure. And the drugs just killed the pain. Mm-hmm. So without the drugs, you to go back into that lifestyle would be very hard. They're not, it becomes very nasty. Mm-hmm. What you see and what you witness. And again, you see some of these people on the sides of the roads and you're like, well, why would they do that? It's all they know. They're taken out of their own cells, and they're given these drugs to help ease the pain of what's going on in the world and in their lives. And, sometimes you have to deal with the inner stuff before you can deal with the outer stuff. And, it's a lifelong thing. But yeah, I was able to kick the habit. I was, 18, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. This is not for me. I met some good people. I ended up moving out of Kamloops, and yeah, I was still on probation, and still, I'd gone through the drug rehab and all that kind of stuff, and I was still clean. And I moved away, and it was just kind of like a temporary just to get away from what I thought was the problem. In turn, it was still with me. And I did my time there and ended up back in Kamloops, back where I was familiar. And this time was different. I ended up meeting someone who was, I think he was like probably 13, 14 years older than me. Mm. And, my knight in shining armor, not so much. Entered a relationship thinking that, this was, again, I was in the need of being needed. And, so he took me away. He gave me a place, and, I became the love of his life. And that didn't last very long before I realized that alcohol was very much the love of his life. And abuse was very apparent, that was what was, going on. So I dealt with it. And 4 years later, we decided we were getting married because that was the best thing to do. And we loved each other. And I endured that for another 4 years of alcohol, drugs, abuse, and BS. Mm-hmm. And I finally had the strength to leave. I was just like, okay, enough's enough. One crazy night led to some conversation. I'm like, you know what? I don't need this anymore, and I can do this. So I left, and things were better, and I moved on with my life. I met different people. I had a different friend group. And by this time I was probably about, 25, 26, right? So now it's time to get your poop in a group and start life. And I did. I had a job. Of course, you can't have everything good for too long. So I was clean and sober. That was the best part of my life, is that I was clean and sober, and that I was back in my family's life, and we were able to make some amends there. Mm-hmm. Although I don't know that I was mentally any better off. I ended up in another relationship, and who I thought was one of my best friends ever. And we were very good friends, and we did a lot of fun things, and in turn ended up a little more than friends. And I ended up pregnant, thinking, okay, now my life is now over. I'm 28. I still don't have a career. I don't know where I'm going with my life. I still have lots of things I wanted to do, because those were all set and ingrained in my head when I was 7 years old, like this is what I want for my life. But I was, had taken a different path and unable to achieve those things. So I was pregnant, and I was informed that he wasn't having anything to do with it, and nor should I. And again, I thought, that's okay. I can handle this. I'll do it on my own. And I did. And it was one of probably the biggest turning points of my whole entire life, where I realized that I now can do this on my own. And my life was going to go on with or without anybody else. I had my daughter, and I was able to support myself without asking for other help, which was really cool. And I decided at that point I needed a career. I needed to have something for me and my daughter. And I wanted to be a chef, because I've always been passionate about food. But realizing that would not maybe be the best choice, being that was a lot of nighttime work, and that's when I should be a parent. Becoming a parent did not come easy to me. It's not something I chose lightly, but I did choose that it was the right thing to do. And so I became a hairdresser instead, because I could do it during the day. And I did that for a few years and realized that I didn't really love it. I did end up with the elderly people and doing hairdressing in a retirement home, which I absolutely loved. Mm-hmm. And full circle, my daughter ended up working there 15 years after. But that was kind of cool. And then I met someone that loved me for me. I thought I was damaged. I honestly thought that I was going to go through the rest of my life as a single mom. And I was okay with that. I was totally okay with that I was going to raise this child and build a career and build a life for us. I was fine with that. But if I did meet somebody, and he accepted me for me, he didn't see me as damaged goods, and he loved my daughter like she was his. And that came over time, but just there was no judgment on what had happened or what I had done, or even that he knew. But I just thought, single mom, I'm done. And that man is my husband today, and he is my rock, and he's the reason I'm here. And he loved my daughter like no one had ever loved her, and he adopted her. And the rest is history. Nobody even knows that. Even in his family, even people that know us, they don't ever say, oh, she was adopted, or that's not her dad. We don't even, it's not even a conversation that is brought up. And it was just family. And then a couple years later, we had another child. And I guess I just see that's where one damaged person can move forward in life, and one step at a time, and just keep on going and keep on going. And it's not over. There's a lot I've had to deal with. There's no blame when it comes to, I could blame my family for keeping that foster child, or I could blame other things that had went on in my life to send me to where I went. But realistically, I think everybody did exactly what everybody needed to do, including myself. And I can appreciate the whole journey that has gotten me here today. And I don't even really, I don't see that side of myself anymore. I just see who I am today and what I can do, how I can help people, and where I can end up in another couple of years. Like I'm on a journey and I'm going to get there. And, there's no stopping.
Yeah, wow. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
that's an
there's a lot
amazing.
of words. I'm sorry.
No, that's an amazing story. I didn't want to interrupt you because I was just pretty riveted. Because there's a lot in there that you shared that I didn't know at all. Because I mean, when we talked before, I'd heard a
Yeah.
little bit of it. So I'm thinking like, so you were basically in the drug world from about like 13 till what? Like basically 18, kind of?
Probably till 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say I was fortunate. And although as a parent of a 15-year-old right now, I often will be very nervous and scared and then I look back at my life and say, I felt now I feel fortunate that if I was going to do anything, that I did it at that age. I also had a very, very, very strong start where I was not, I did not come from an abusive family or a family that, you know, indulged in drugs and even the alcohol was so very, very minimal. I never have in my entire life seen any of my parents even intoxicated
Mhm.
in any way, shape, or form. So I was fortunate that that time in my life was done when it was done. So when I was in my adult years, I was able to focus on moving forward. And I guess I'd already been there and done that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, we're going to just shift a little bit and then we're going to wrap it up. So tell me
Perfect.
a little bit, you were talking about the nutrition thing. Why did
Yeah.
nutrition become so important to you? Does it have any bearing on kind of what you went through before? Like why, you talked about how you liked food and you liked to cook and you wanted to be a chef and then you became a nutrition coach. Like where does that fit into all this?
I think when it all boils down to body image, partially. Um, Going through life, I had my ups and downs when it came to weight. Um, I was always I always felt I was always a small person. I was a very small boned is what they called me. I think my grandma called me small boned. And the realistic part, I was scrawny. I was a very scrawny person. And then you grow up and you go through different stages and different hormones and different whatever, and you put weight on and you take weight off and you put it on, you take it off. And I always thought I was supposed to be skinny. Like that's the true thing is that when I put on a little bit of weight, it was like, okay, this is not the body that I meant to be in. And after I had children, again, it was just like, okay, I didn't see that as in, okay, your body has just birthed two children. Yes, it's going to change you. I didn't see that in my head. I was just fat, you know. I wanted to be myself. I wanted to be that small bone, skinny, scrawny person again. And so, yeah, I did a lot of dieting and I've always loved food. So the two don't really mix very well in the sense that you've got a passion for really tasty food and your taste buds are just like jumping out of their skin when you're watching it cook on the stove. You're like, oh, I can just imagine what those taste like, right? And I would, like taste this whatever sauces. I was like, oh, I could add a little of this, and I had the knack of pairing that all together.
Yeah, and you're a
And
really good
enjoyed
cook,
eating.
and that's what you've been doing. You've been posting on social media for me, different some of your recipes, and like it's all good, healthy stuff. Like you've done,
Yeah.
you've done your research, you know what's going to be good, and so
Yeah.
Like, I think that's cool. So then like liking food and then learning about nutrition, you kind of get it all together. But I think what you're saying too is that, you try to stay healthy and stuff, but then you love food so much and you love cooking really good food. So you have all this, this really delicious food right at your disposal constantly. So it's kind of like this tension of like, I want to eat all the food, but I want to stay healthy and fit, right?
Well, and I think you learn too, like you learn to change your palate over time depending on what your goals are.
Hmm.
So I love food, and most tasty food is laden with fats and sugars and all of that kind of stuff. So if you go to the restaurant, there, I can guarantee you there's a pound of butter on that steak or whatever. So how can I create that in a way that's going to suit my lifestyle? What are the goals that I want to reach? And how can I create that? So that became a new, fun, exciting challenge for me. And again, knowing that I was never going to get back into that skinny, scrawny pre-baby body that I thought that would happen without some extreme measures that were completely unrealistic to keep going with in a lifestyle, and to be able to keep happy and full and energetic and, fit. There's a difference between skinny and fit. And I love being fit. I love working out. If you're not fueling your body, you can't do that at its maximum. So yeah, I think it was just all the big puzzle pieces of my passion for food, my desire to be the healthiest person that I can be, which I'm definitely on the right path to. We all have just a little bit to work on, and I will, and I do, and I will. But now I'm able to turn my passion for food and creating yummy food into how can I create that with some sort of health factor, like how can people eat that without feeling negatively impacted, whether it's their mental or their physical or whatever. No, it doesn't always taste the same as it would if it did have a mound of cheese or
A shake
whatever,
of salt, a whole bunch of salt piled on it.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's a matter of like changing your, your mindset and your palate, and learning different techniques. And just the whole nutrition course, when I did take it, I learned so much about why we even need to eat, and how it's important in different stages of our lives, and all of that. So I have to say that was probably one of my biggest achievements in the last is breaking down some barriers and deciding to go back and take that course and just learn something for myself. I didn't know what I was going to do with it when I had it, but I do now. And I know that being able to help people on a different level and just,
yeah, I think that's
being there for them.
It's so interesting, right? To see that, like, yeah, you're like a lot of your teens, right? You probably weren't really thinking about how to fuel your body well, how to be healthy, right? To the, you're doing drugs and whatever, and you're living in these different places. Go ahead.
I always still wanted to,
Okay.
right from my teens, I always still tried to work out somewhat.
Mhm.
Even in my, older years past my teens, once I met my husband now, he always worked away. So I always tried to work out or lift weights or, be a part of some sort of physical activities always. Even in my drug years, I did, something to keep my body active, not always fueled properly, but active.
Mhm.
Yeah. And now it's full circle, and I'm doing what I love, and I'm learning every day, and it's not too late. That's one thing that I have to say. It's not too late. There's still so much learning that I want to do, and I have time to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's so good because I think a lot of people too, they think, oh, well, you kind of lived your life, you had your kids, but like here you are, you're like, yeah, yeah, I've had my kids and stuff, but I'm going to learn, I'm going to become a nutrition coach. And I know when you did that, like there was quite a few people that were like, whoa, like go Patty, like that's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
Not that you're that
Yeah.
old, just not like you're not like in your 80s or 60s or whatever.
I'm not ancient.
No, but still, for a lot of people, it seems like, whoa, that's really stepping out of the, kind of the norm. But I think that's what's so
Yeah.
powerful about it, right? Is that, like you said, it's never too late. You're never too old. You never, you just go ahead and keep doing what you want to do. And the fact that you've been so persistent, I mean, even through all of the stuff that you've gone through, you kept, it's like you knew what you needed somewhere in
Yeah.
there, and you tried this and okay,
Yeah.
that wasn't it. I'm going to try this. Okay, that's not it. But it's like you just kept going. And like you said, because you had that solid beginning of your years, right? Where you had sort of it
Yeah.
modeled of what a good family would look like, maybe what good food would look like, what good routines would look like. You had that ingrained in your head, right? And I think that's what's so powerful. And I think for a lot of parents and I've talked to parents, right, whose kids have strayed, I think to just remember that you gave them what you could in the time, and you can't control everything. You cannot control like what they're going through. You can try to be supportive, but
No.
at the end of the day, like it's out of your hands in so many ways, right?
Yeah. And I have to say that it was there was a time I did meet my husband, and he is an amazing man, and we don't always see eye to eye, and we definitely have a different path that we decide that we go on all the time. But he did give me the opportunity to raise my children the way that I wanted them to be raised. And in that same, I was at home for them, and I gave them the ability to come home to a safe home. I always had a snack after school. I was the house that the mom was home, so all the kids could come over to. And again, coming here, I kind of thought, well, I guess you sometimes feel a little older too, because you stop your career, or your thought of what your career is going to be, from in the parenting years. and I actually didn't. I just paused it for a little bit while I was able to raise my kids and to give them the opportunities that if I was working full time, I wouldn't have been able to take my daughter all over the place for her competitive hammer throw, or been there for my son if he wanted to have his friends over, or just all those things that I feel so fortunate that I was able to do. And now it's time for me again. And the pause is I'm able to push play again and pick up where I left off. And and yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing it, Patty. I'm going to ask you like kind of a vulnerable question, but like, how is it sharing this story? Because you haven't really ever shared it like this, especially not on a platform like this. Has it been helpful for you? Has it been more difficult than you thought? Was it easier than you thought?
Um, the days leading up to this have been very difficult. I know that there's a lot of gaps in there, and that maybe some of them are there for a very good reason. And there is still some gaps in my own personal story that I haven't figured out yet. And I know that they're there, and they definitely arise emotion right now, because I know where they are, and I know what they are, and I know that they have to be dealt with for me to completely move forward. Sharing this story, I would not have been able to do a couple of years ago, because it's only been in the last couple of years that my son has actually been aware that my daughter was adopted. We have left that portion of her life out of, she's known, but he's never known, because we always wanted it to be the perfect family dynamics, right? A daughter, a son, a loving mom, and a loving dad. And that's exactly how it was. So when we were able to share that with him, that opened up a lot for me, and so made this possible today. Yeah, it was okay. I feel like I was able to, I hope if anybody's listening and that if they have children, addicted children, that they know that it's okay to still love them unconditionally, but it's okay not to like what they're doing. And that, you know, they they can break through depending on who they are. You know, I feel very fortunate that I was able to break out of that lifestyle, because honestly, there's still the ones that are still alive. There is still people out there that I also was with, you know, and they're not any further along. And I feel like I think I send that back to my upbringing. So, you know, it's okay. It's okay to not be abused either. When your children or your, you know, adult children or younger children are abusing you due to alcohol, drugs, whatever that looks like, it's okay to say no. But and it's still okay to love them unconditionally with, you know, with that that is. I think that they need to know that someone's always there. It's just that you have to be treated with respect. And yeah, I hope whatever I said, and I honestly don't even know a lot of what I said. I'll probably have to go back on this and say, okay, what did I even tell these people? Is that somebody can take something away. And I'm definitely here for anybody who wants to talk about that, because I think that was one of the biggest things. Before, when you confronted me on this, I actually asked my mom, I'm like, are you okay if I talk about this? And she said, yeah, you know, this is your story, and you're totally, I appreciate that you ask, but it had nothing to do with them. It really didn't. It, you know, if anything, I knew that they were supporting me 100%, but they had to do it behind a different fence, because I was not a nice person. You know, I was abusive, you know. So yeah, I hope just somebody takes something away from it, and that just because you were down and out doesn't mean that you can't press play later on and continue on. I still got a few things that are on my list, and I know that I will complete them. And this journey's not over for me. It's just begun.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Patti. And thank you for just your friendship and you're willing to share this, because I knew that you had a powerful story, and I just felt like it would just be so good for people to hear this and to kind of see how you've come out on the other side, and just the wisdom and insight that you have because of that. So thank you so much, Patti.
Yeah, and thank you. I mean, and the people, you need a supportive group to be able to do that. You need to know that the people that are going to listen to this are not going to judge you, and there will be people that will judge, and that's okay. But that the people that know who you are today aren't going to judge you for who you were 25, 30 years ago, you know, 40 years ago, whatever that looks like. That's who you were, and who you are today, and the person that you become friends with is all because of the journey that they got there with. And I may not even be able to help people nutritionally if I had not been able to take the journey that I went to get to where I am today. So I have to appreciate every step of it. You know, I could resent a few things, but I do appreciate every step of my life and my journey. And like I said, I'm looking forward to the next part of it, because now it's my turn, and now I'm going to rise above everything. So yeah,
I know you will, because that's the way you are, Patti. You'll do it. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by my company, Power Fitness Online. We are a tight-knit fitness community, and we guide you every step of the way to get fit and stay fit. through our live workouts, nutrition coaching, and incredible support team. Go to powerfitnessedson.com to learn more. Thank you for tuning into the podcast today. If you enjoyed it, please leave a positive review on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Music, or wherever you're listening. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I would love to see your comments. I would love to know what you think about this episode and interact with you. I love hearing from you. Once again, I'm Carla Rand, and this is The Carla Rand Show, and I can't wait to see you next week for our next episode.